Hi to all. Welcome to the hot summer hot August 2023 edition of Recordando, the monthly online poetry series, which I, Tammy Gomez, founded and initiated back in November of 2020. I remember that month. I was so thrilled to see any faces, even if they appeared in zeros and ones on a digital screen. I was enthralled by the ability to see friends and then hear their poetry, and curating this month after month has just been a joy. And here lately, because as some of you may know, there's been a lot of family struggle that I've been going through. I'm not so much curating as just showing up and allowing you all and inviting y'all to show up with me and share what we may in these precious minutes together. And as some of you know, when there have been as few as 3 or 5 of us, it's been magical and very full. So this is never anymore about numbers and trying to accomplish, a huge head count, because there's always a lot of content, and the satisfaction that I get from what's shared just lasts for weeks until I see you again. So here we are for 2 hours, and of course, drop out as you need to. You can say goodbye in the chat or just come back on mic and let us know that you have to head out. And Cindy, you already mentioned you might be tuning out around 9. That's cool. Our theme just came up in conversation the other day, because I happened to call Richard Loringer here, and so what we settled on somewhat very casually, offhandedly, was el MERO FAMILIA, like the real deal family, the true peeps in your life, like your brothers from other mothers and your sisters from other misters, and the friend family that you make, and many of us cultivate to the end of our days, because those family members stay with us and stay with us and stay with us no matter what or why. So yeah, if you have any work that somehow touches on that, love to hear it, but we would love to hear anything that you might want to read to us, even if it's not in the poetry genre per se. Oh, and please give yourself a shout out if there's anything to announce by way of poetry readings you have coming up, or book releases, or you've fallen in love or something like that. We'd just love to hear all the good news. So welcome, everyone. If you would like to write in the chat where you're from, where you hail from, that might be good and necessary, because we have some new people in the mix today, and they may not understand how global we are. So
Are you claiming that falling in love is good news?
it can be. It can be for some.
Okay.
It is for me right now.
Oh yeah. Hey.
Oh.
I just have to make do with a crush on my physical therapist these days.
Oh, you've mentioned that.
Yeah.
Yes. Well, you might like to hear this, Richard. My friend Andrea just talked to me. We just ended our call about 15 or 20 minutes ago. She was one of very few artists that were selected for a prestigious museum art show called the De Young Show. And the show opens on September 30th, which is my birthday. And
Wait,
so,
is that San Francisco?
yeah.
I mean, there's the De Young Museum. So
Yeah, it's going to be there at the De Young. So Andrea Gonzalez is her last name, was just selected as an artist for a special show coming up
that's
in
awesome.
September. So I'm thinking, woo, birthday in San Francisco. So you heard it first.
Are you coming here?
I might try, because she's invited me for so many things, including her her art school graduation, which I didn't make it to. I feel like maybe I could try this time to really get there and celebrate her accomplishments. Anyway,
Well, if you do, I do have, this is my room with the guest bed. You do have to sleep underneath the coyote, but it's actually quite good, energies, and in here. But just so you know, if she doesn't have a hammock for you or something. I am leaving for East Coast on October 3rd, really late, October 2nd.
yeah, shortly thereafter. Yeah, my birthday is September 30th. Donna. So yeah, she has a super deluxe, a very expensive apartment in San Francisco. So she said she has an extra room for me. So
Well,
we shall see. We shall see how it goes, if it goes. Oh, and I will share this, and I'm not shy about having this recorded. I just got an email this morning from the US Department of Education. My student loan has been forgiven.
Ooh, that's wonderful.
I was wanting that to happen, and I just felt like I should qualify, and why couldn't I be one of those lucky folks? And it looks like I am one of those lucky folks. So
did you get one earlier in the summer saying you might qualify?
I
Because
got
I
one
did,
that's,
and then I never heard anything after that.
oh, I know, I
Mhm.
got one saying get ready because you might start paying again later in the fall. And I'm like, oh God, here we go again. But
Hmm.
yeah, anyway, it's come down to this. And of course, I'm just thanking my brother, because now that he's part of the universe at large, I feel like he has the power to pull strings. So
That's awesome.
I'm feeling blessed, and that does take a little bit of burden off the shoulders, to say the least. Yeah. And I blame Kafka, because that's the reason why I had to take the extra credit, the course, because I fell behind in my college plan, because I took one semester off to stay here in Texas, because my father had a brain surgery, a very urgent and necessary life-saving brain surgery, and I chose to stay in town to help the family. And so I got behind on my credits, and my senior year or junior year, I had to I needed 1.5 more credits to graduate on time. So I blame Kafka. So I took a Kafka course, which I loved, of course, because I love Kafka. But that's the course for which I needed to take out the student loan. So it was a minuscule loan by student loaner, standards. Or yeah, it wasn't a lot of money, but with the interest, it became a lot of money over time.
Wow, I just can't believe it. That's so awful. I'm so glad they forgave it. I mean, I just can't believe that that was a long time ago, right?
Yeah, way too long. And I guess part of me should feel ashamed about that, but I'm not embarrassed about that, because it happens to
No,
people. They
not
get,
least. Our system was failing, and now we've got it fixed a little tiny, tiny bit.
I missed that last bit, Donna. We've got tiny bit. What? I'm sorry. You got cut off a little there.
That was the last word.
Hello? Okay. Well, if you want to just type in the chat for now, you could do that. It's up to you, Donna.
It might just be the video that was slowing things down, though. Maybe we can hear you
Maybe.
with the black screen.
Yeah, let me try. Can you hear me now?
Yep.
Great. Perfect. Perfect. Yes.
I had trouble with this, with the internet in this particular room. So, yeah. Anyway, that was the last thing I said. A little bit, like a little bit of a tiny improvement on our system. I'm glad you got that.
Yeah, and I've been thinking for many years about how so many of us give extra as volunteers in the community, and I wish that somehow could be calculated in a way that it could measure up to some sort of relief for people who need an economic break, or get some kind of credit for that. Because I know I put in hundreds of hours as a volunteer.
I got my finger crossed. They'll do anything, because I've been paying off nothing but the interest for decades. I mean, and the amount never goes down. Yeah, just like it's supposed to never go down. Yeah,
I hope
you
you
know,
get another email from them that's a better one.
we'll see. I don't suspect they'll do all that, but because it's like 40 grand or something, or more now. Yeah,
Oh,
I know.
I
Well,
think it was my brother, actually. My brother, like about a decade ago. Well, why don't you just send your diploma back? I'm like, it doesn't work that way, Ted. Get a refund. Get your money back. Anyway,
I'll be like, this English degree didn't do me much good, did it? Financially, anyway. But without it, would I be here now?
maybe not.
Mhm.
Yeah, Cindy, if you're gonna use the word turd in a sentence, I'd say that's the best use of the word turd right there. At least for tonight, I say. So does anybody here want to kind of break the ice with a poem for us?
Do it. Can I go ahead? You hear me?
Yeah, you sound great. How about the person in the room? Can they hear you?
It seems to
Yeah.
sleep right now. Let me try.
Okay. Well, I hope they don't mind, because I'm ready to hear you. Thank you.
Okay, and
Ernest.
it's about him. So this is like I guess with the meadow, like in search of the meadow, like trying to create a meadow. Um, oh, I had it. Okay, and it's really kind of like, well, I'll just read it. Not really. I don't know if it's a poem, but I'll read it. I feel grounded more so after a night's rest and time in my own apartment, but the grounding is from a shift in my trajectory from having Ken in my life. The safety, warmth, and protection I feel from allegorically and literally being in his arms extends more and more to the world beyond. I've been fumbling in my vulnerability, making mistakes, but still being loved, loving in my misfit ways, and that love still being accepted. And so I don't feel so plucked when he says I'm beautiful. It's even with this big mole on my nose and rolls on my body and small, limp dick and sagging ass. But it feels deep and meaningful and true. The affirmations of being smiled at, of being watched, of being held, and eliciting arousal. What solid gold adorations those are, and how couldn't I respond in bloom? It's a rainfall and a sunshine, and it's an accelerated time of growth. This man smiles the elements through me. He wants to spend as much time with me as I do with him. He wants the kisses and caresses that I want to dutifully adorn him with. I have such a seemingly unshakable fondness for his sweetness and love.
Beautiful.
Thank you.
Ooh, I feel that. I got shivers.
That was terrific.
Sweet.
Oh. Oh.
Thank you.
Oh. Thank you, Ernest. Thank you for not being for not withholding that. Thank you.
Mhm.
Thank you.
Having been there, I totally can relate. It's just been a while.
Thank you.
Big line about the elements, so.
Well, this isn't a poem, it's a thought, but it's about reading on social media that a former partner of mine is heartbroken again, or after a current relationship that didn't work out. And I felt myself feeling sympathy and a kind care for his heart. Even though mine is, mine is done. My heart is not, angling towards that person any longer, but I still care. So that must mean there's a familial connection. And he was very raw and real about sharing that he's heartbroken. And that kind of vulnerability, I think, is really precious. And I don't say that in like an exploitative way, like it's for my amusement, but it's precious, meaning it's good to know that people I've cared about are, feel safe exploring and expressing the vulnerability like that. Because I want my family to be that way. So that's that one. Anybody else
Yeah.
feeling in a family way?
Thanks.
Well, I want to say that I haven't had that specific experience that you're talking about, Tammy, with a former partner. That's because, for one thing, none of my former partners are on Facebook. So, but I do have that. I feel grateful and that I care about all of them. And one of them did, I do, I don't have like hate or anything or bitterness with anybody like that. So I like that. I guess in a way, yeah, that familial relationship is there, and I think it's the same from them also. Yeah. But yeah, I do want to share some of the young man, Jared, is. So I want to share the day after he died, which was a terrible day, because my son called me, of course, very agitated and had me call 911, and then he also had me call his dad. But Jared was and I looked so hard because I knew he liked to write, and I guess, none of these, they're 30 years old, and a lot of them, my son's not on Facebook any longer. And, Jared hadn't been on a lot of these age group are really not on Facebook much. And so I had found something he wrote along, but I could no longer find it. It was no longer there. But he did have some posts, and if it's okay, I'd like to share them. So one of them was just, well, as I mentioned, his little brother, he posted February 3rd, 2021. My little brother took his life today. I don't want pity. I want people to look and see that even in the brightest, happiest looking people can lurk things very, very dark. Please, please, please reach out. I'd like to say more, but I can't think straight. So here's a picture. I like it. And it's a picture of his younger brother. And then there's a picture. I remember this happening because my son was on Facebook at the time, and I don't have any idea. I'm not going to share the pictures with y'all, of course, because one, we're. But anyway, it's a picture of my son with Jared, and again, they're both 30 years old. Or Zach will be. Matter of fact, Zach will be 31 on Monday. Jared would have been 31 in December. Anyway, they were doing Pokemon Go, which probably most of you know what that was, and actually it still exists. But so they were out like at a park, kind of up on a big rock in the summer of 2016, and Jared posts that my real happiness exists away from human connection and in the hope that I get forever lost with the people who truly care for me. Love all, trust few, and do wrong unto none. So that just showed their friendship, how true their friendship was to me. And then there's one other one I want to share, which Jared was very progressive thinker and carer of the world. And so on November 27th, 2020, he had a meme about somebody that's trying to dig out of a ditch or whatever and doesn't share his tool with the person in the ditch next to him. And Jared's like, why not? Why aren't you sharing? So he wrote, people need help in so many different ways, yet are looked at as if they aren't even trying. We are not alone. There is an abundance of help in every direction. There might even be help for him just out of the hole, but a lack of empathy stays the hand of so many, all being told we can do it on our own. The essence of humanity cries out for closeness. Everything we build is for each other, for the future. No one person can change their own stars. Sometimes you just need a little help. Thank y'all for letting me share that. I personally am not a poet.
Thank you.
Thanks.
It's
It was
lovely.
great to hear.
Yeah, it's lovely to hear your appreciation for him and to get to know him a little bit through you.
Mhm.
Yeah, I second what you said, Donna. And I can tell you've been doing a lot of reading there, and those pieces that you've shared are real important to share, I think. We're not here for ourselves, we're here for each other.
Mhm. He passed pretty young. Mhm.
Yes, it was, 30 years old. Yeah.
You know, it's interesting because I wanted to share a piece of artwork that I made for a friend. Actually, the person who made that's always behind me here, an artist friend.
Do you mind leaving the
So
light?
I was thinking about,
Thanks.
I guess I was thinking about people I have loved or been close with. And Peter and I were very close. And he died at age 30, actually, in 2001. And
You can share the image.
I could share screen, right? Yeah,
yes, yeah, you can.
thanks.
Mm-hmm.
And it's a coincidence. That was the first thing. I found a couple poems, maybe I'll read later, but this was the first thing I wanted to share. And it's not a great version of the image because I took the picture recently and I just sort of cleaned it up a little bit. Okay. And this is a birthday card that I made for him. I don't know, probably he was in his early 20s, and I was about 30. And it's on my wall in my kitchen. And it's about 30 by 40 inches. It's big. And Peter did a lot of different kinds of art. He was also a dancer and a musician and all kinds of things. And yeah, and we were close friends mostly. We weren't like involved really. I mean, he was uh, not really. I mean, we had a little involvement, but because he was bisexual, and I actually was the minister at his wedding with his wife. um, and anyway, I just kept thinking of this today, and so I sort of cleaned up this image that I have of it. And it doesn't have a title. It was a birthday card. But do you need it to see it a little bigger? Because maybe I'd like to read some of it. And of course, the framing of it is fractal love, the grid of space, a womb laid flat, not the commotion, not the dance, pervasive, audacious, luscious, mesmerizing, rampant, but the evasive, arcane, ubiquitous, startling stillness rips an interpenetration. Limbs, empathy, sassafras, saliva, ardor. I don't know why it's spelled British. Shock, conveniently, you emerge. Won't you join us? You island fuck. Hear a flash. You ox. You whirl because it sanctifies. Yes. You whirl another minute. Of course, man. Boil my blood. Surge what sanctifies. What dance loves what dancer. An egg is falling from the sky. A flower blossoms in your eye. So anyway, I don't show the art stuff too often, but I think I've shown one or two before. It's old. It still looks pretty good. It's a little beat up. I got it from his brother a few years ago. I have a lot of Peter's artwork, and the one behind me in this room is one of my favorites. There's about 6 or 8 pieces hanging around my apartment. Peter died of HIV complications in 2001. He did not trust Western medicine, so he would not take the cocktails. He left a lot of angry people, people angry about that behind, but that was very Peter. Anyway, I thought I would share this birthday card I made for him from like the early 90s sometime, a bunch of oil pastels on black paper, and somehow it's sort of a blackboard and somehow held up. I'm not sure how or why. So
It's lovely
voila.
and intriguing. Thank you for sharing that.
Mm-hmm.
If you took down that coyote painting behind you, I would feel like we were missing something. I've gotten very attached to it.
It used to not be in a frame. For a long time, it would flap on the wall.
Yeah, that's right. I'm seeing that now.
And I just like raw artwork, but it's a watercolor, and it actually did fade some, and I started getting alarmed about that. So I sort of spritzed it up as best I could, and shelled out the $600 to have it framed in good glass or whatever it is.
I like how it looks like it's lurking on the edge of our campfire here.
It kind of is.
I like that, Donna.
Yeah.
Thank you, Richard. I'm sorry about your friend leaving so young.
I mean, we're here for a flash, and sometimes it's delicious. Anyway, maybe I'll share a poem or two later, but I just wanted to share that. And it's a funny coincidence in some ways, Cindy, that's what I had thought to share. And I was sort of wondering why exactly, but now I know. Memo. Yeah. By the way, I learned that from you this week. I did not know that double word phrase. I'd not heard that before because my Spanish is, how do you say egregious in Spanish?
Oh, I don't know that one.
No bueno. Anyway,
Hmm.
Thanks for reading it to us because it made it, yeah, really, you know, made the card you reading it to us.
oh,
Mhm.
I mean, you can read it in any sort of any order in some
Yeah.
ways. But I make pieces like that. Like, it's funny. Sometimes people ask what you do, or ask me what I do, and I sometimes say words in a certain order, and then I think sometimes they're not. But that's too confusing to tell anybody, so I don't. Okay.
Yeah,
Um,
you're good. Keep it coming. Yeah.
the poem I want to read is it's about a moment and I probably read it here before, and maybe some of you remember hearing it. It's about a moment with me and a person named Patricia Gonzalez, and she and I have only been in the same room for a total of about maybe 10 hours, but I do feel a deep and wonderful connection with her. She grew up in this city where I live in Fort Worth. We went to the same Catholic school, and since she's moved away and moved on up, she's become a professor of indigenous studies and is a curandera who travels a lot to Mexico and Central America, and has written some books about indigeneity and healing and curandera ways. Well, she and her husband, well, ex-husband, and he just passed away July 31st. So he's been gone less than a month. Roberto, Dr. Cintle Rodriguez, que en paz descansa. They showed up at my front door here in Fort Worth about, well, it was years ago, where they both showed up, and they were still married at the time, unannounced and unexpected. And when I opened the door, I can't even say it was instinct, because instinct means I was primed for it somehow, but maybe I was. I did something I've never done for anybody or to anybody. I fell to my knees. That's how honored I was by her being there on my porch. And it was her, even though I honored and had a lot of respect for her partner, her husband, Dr. Cintle Rodriguez. It was seeing her that made me drop to my knees. And I wasn't embarrassed to do that. It's just what my body did. And that's family, and even beyond family, because I've never done that to my mom or for my dad or anybody. It's just that's how much I look up to her as a kind of spiritual sister. Well, that same weekend, she came back to my place by herself, and she gave me a flower limpia, which is like a ceremonial cleansing, but instead of using a broom or an egg, she used flowers. So this is the poem about that moment. Poem number 74 of 365. She bade me lie upon my back and never mind the world. Just close your eyes and see white light. I heard the sound of broken stems as she pulled off the flower heads and placed some on my torso. Then I felt sudden pressure as she rubbed me down with blossoms, brushing the petals into my skin with short, swift strokes like erasing a name, striking a match. The scent of the flowers made my room a midday garden, a bed of serene and quiet prayer. The last one then, a carnation white, she perched between my lips. And it was that one, that last flower, that set me singing, tears melodic down my face in two racing liquid trails.
Well, Tammy.
Beautiful.
Lovely.
I can feel that. That seems like I want to how do you say it? Kunandero? I'm not saying it right. To come visit me.
Yeah.
You said it right, but more importantly, you felt it. I can tell you
Yes.
felt it right. So
I
the
feel it.
saying comes that's extra for me. If the understanding is there, that's more than half of the work, I think. Yeah, and so it's leading me to think, I mean, but because this was apparently a practice that Patricia had done. I mean, maybe she might have just gone to Albertsons and gotten some flowers from, the store. So it wasn't like she picked them from some organic flower meadow situation. They were store-bought flowers. Nonetheless, in that room, she made a special moment that was very cathartic, very personal, and quite memorable. But we too can do that for each other. That's the part that just hit me after I finished reading it, is what stops us. And let's just say us here in the room as us, as peacemakers, as poem creators, as artists, as creators, as endeavoring spiritual manifestors somehow. What stops us from creating moments like these with and for each other, using the materials we have at hand, a magic ritual that involves a cat, a sweet cat, or a hat,
Or a rock.
or a rock.
To answer your question, nothing should stop us. That's my opinion.
Yeah, I was
I
hoping
like
somebody
believing
would say that.
kind of stuff. Yeah, I hope nothing would. I try to do cleansing stuff for people when I can, and for myself.
Thank you for saying that. I just put something in the chat. A person by that name is wanting to enter the room. Does anybody claim that person? Okay, well, I'm gonna let them in and we'll see what happens.
They have a funny name, Billy Rubin. That's a
So yeah, what are the kinds of rituals and special moments we can create? And sometimes we do that with here's Billy Rubin, aka Brian Patrick McCarthy. I hesitated to let you in because the name didn't ring a bell, so just saying.
Sorry, I forgot that was still that way.
It's okay. So yeah, why don't you put on that Western hat and you really look like a Billy Rubin. Yeah, so performance art can be ritualistic and create a different kind of mood in a room, in a gallery space. When people, I know some poets who've been asked to officiate wedding ceremonies, and I've actually done that once down in Houston. The opportunity to create a meaningful moment, and you could say it's a ritual or a ceremony. Yeah. But it can involve like a rock, a stone, flowers, incense, letting the cats in the room or whatever. I think it's a form of magic that too many of us, especially grown-up people, adults or people in grown-up bodies, stop doing because we bought into the idea that only official folks with certificates or letters behind their name have the right to do that. And so many of you in the room here as artists don't, y'all don't wait for that. Y'all just do what y'all do. And I love y'all for that.
You remember, I don't know if anyone else here would remember this in any way, but yeah, I know that you had some part in Peach, the performance art church in Austin, which I was also in. Does that ring a bell to anyone here? It doesn't, it needn't. It happened for several years in the late
Yeah.
90s.
No, that sounds very cool. Can you tell me a little bit about it? Because it's news to me.
Performance archers. Well, Tammy, I can't remember what all you were involved with it too, but what I wanted to say was, I don't know, do you happen to remember? We did, I didn't start it or anything. I just fell into it. I think my boyfriend was in it, and I was like, I want to do that too, and all that sort of thing. And most of it was every several months or a few times a year, maybe 2, 3 times a year, there'd be like a big performance art show at the Electric Lounge usually, but sometimes some other place, and there'd be a theme, and someone would sort of like oversee the whole thing, and everybody would make up weird things to do in front of other people. But there was one show that was not like that. It was an installation show at a farmhouse in South Austin. Do you remember that?
I did
I
not
don't-
participate in that one. I guess I
uh,
was doing something else.
I only mention it because, and everybody got a room. People lived there too, so it was kind of weird. It was the old Zendik farmhouse, but I can't remember what it was um, at that point. And I did. I had everybody got a room or some space, and did something different, very different with it. And I got the room. It was a big old house, like a 2-story house plus an attic, so it's like 3 stories, and there was actually an old like stone, not even a sort of basement. I mean, the stairs were crumbled and it had a dirt floor. You had to be very careful going down there. I know the Skip Shirey did something incredibly frightening down there. But anyway, I had, you could walk in and there was somebody playing a baby grand in the main room that happened to be there in the sort of like the living room. And you could either go upstairs and you had to wander through the house. They just locked their bedroom doors or something, and you would find the rooms where people were. And I only bring this up because it's on topic with what we were talking about, but I ended up getting what was the dining room. It was this big, and it was a really old house, so it wasn't particularly, what do you call it, plumb. It wasn't really, the angles weren't right, you know. So it was a big old square room that wasn't quite square. And it led between the living room and the kitchen, so there was somebody destroying their kitchen, and then you could go into the basement after that. If you didn't go upstairs, this was like the first floor of the house, but you had to go through my room to get to the next couple of places. And I did a thing where it was just a big square room with a door on either side, and I made them, I don't know, they took all the furniture out, and I covered the walls in like magazine pictures, and this part doesn't matter that much. And I actually threw like a few pounds of like old rose petals on the floor, and I had incense burning in the corners and no lights on. And I had about 5 or 6 super balls. And what I did was I spent the entire evenings bouncing the super balls all over the room, like blam, 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 blam. And it was a ritual cleaning of the space, because I've done that a few times with my own spaces by flinging super balls around. It's like sending my energy into vectors and all that sort of thing. And the funny thing was, or maybe it wasn't funny at all, maybe this was just cruel, but to get to the other rooms, people had to walk through it, and you couldn't see the balls because they moved so fast, and they kind of hurt a little bit when they hit you, and people would get hit by the balls. But the name of my piece was, and this had something to do with something just gone on in Austin at that time, and the sort of thing that goes on all the time. On either door, as you went into the room from either direction, it said, "What to do when a policeman lies." And that was the name of my piece. And I was in there flinging these super balls in every direction, and and sort of like cleansing myself in some way, and the room, and slightly hurting everyone who walked through. Nobody actually got hurt, but that was a cleansing ritual. And I don't know if everybody got it. There was something going on where everyone was mad about some action, something going on with the, Austin PD, where, I can't remember the incident at this point because it was the late 90s, and I'm very old now. But anyway.
Wow, what a great place.
Yeah. I
Yeah,
mean, I'm not going to take the time, but I literally remember almost every single room and what people were doing. And the last thing I'll say, in denouement, is that the right word? I don't know why I said that, is that none of us discussed beforehand what we were going to do with our spaces, or even necessarily had seen the spaces that the others, we all came and set something up all that afternoon. We'd gotten to see the space beforehand. And, but the strange thing was, because we didn't know this, is that if you started in the basement and worked your way up to the attic, and even there was actually someone out an attic window on the roof doing something, the basement was it was scary and dark, and it was all kind of funny in a way, but very, very weird and creepy. You had to climb down into the basement if you were able to do that. And there was like one candle burning, and Skip was down there, and he was completely naked, and he would be muttering in a corner, and then he would turn around once there was a group of people there, and he had covered himself with nipples, like bottled nipples. He was covered in nipples, and he was the nipple boy, and he would, in a really weird crony voice or something, tell a story about one of the nipples and where he got it from, or something like that. Which, was surreal and creepy. And then he would pass out stale peeps for people to eat. But that was the basement. And as you went further and further up the building, the pieces, and the first floor was violent. I was cleaning Super Bowls, and I forget this guy's name, but he actually kind of wrecked up their kitchen. He set a fire, he stole people's shoes, he set them on fire. It was really, I don't even know what he was doing, but it was crazy. And then as you went up to the ensuing rooms further and further up, it became lighter and like more peaceful and more good. In the attic, there was a puppet show, and on the roof, there was a sort of a space draped in gauze waving in the breeze, and someone you could barely see inside singing softly at everyone who came to look. And, it was like an angel at the top of the building. So we knew each other pretty well, but we didn't expect something like that.
That's really cool. I was going to ask you if there were some kind of, serendipitous connections between some of the rooms, but it sounds like the whole thing flowed in a magnificent way.
It really did.
I'm sorry I missed that one, but I love the synergy among folks in that group, because you could drop in and out, like I only performed in maybe 4 of the shows. And there were times people didn't want to perform. They didn't want to be on stage, but they wanted to do lights, or they wanted to help with props or costuming. So you could participate at whatever level you wanted. It was very a lot of mutual, decision making. It was very anti-hierarchical for sure. And
right. Eventually it did sort of fall apart, and eventually people moved, and eventually people sort of had disagreements, and weren't as close anymore. But that's what happens. I mean, that's like life on the planet. But, for a while it was a temporary autonomous zone in a way. You know what I mean? It was like this group of people, it didn't matter what was going on, or I mean, we would react to the world maybe, but we were, sort of like creating our own energy and doing our own thing. And I know what you mean too, Tammy, because I didn't perform at every show, but I always did something. I only oversaw one of the shows, which was Hello, Dali. The big surreal review, but anyway, we lost Ernest.
Ernest had to drop out, yeah, for the night. That's okay. But he shared such a lovely piece at the beginning, and now it's recorded so we can see it again.
I'm still gonna have coffee with him. He better let me have coffee, because I want to meet him in person.
Is there anyone that wants to read next? Something to the theme, or whatever else might be on your mind. Hi, Lorraine, welcome.
Oh, I don't see all the faces. I'm gonna change my view a little bit here.
Hello. I couldn't
Hi.
find the link and somebody eventually sent it to me. I think it was you, Brian.
Oh,
Thank you.
oh, I'm
I couldn't-
sorry.
I couldn't find the link anyplace.
Uh-oh, my bad.
It was like further down in the description, but it automatically like collapses. You have to kind of-
I opened that and I clicked on the link that was there and it sent me to the same page.
Yeah, that's a different one, and I'm sorry I sent you that first, but the other link was buried in there somewhere.
Well, I'm
Oh,
glad
well.
you're here, Lorraine.
Well, thank you for doing this as usual, Tammy.
Of course, of course. So yeah, Richard somehow nudged me to the theme, which was just decided 2 days ago. I've been really slow on a lot of things because I've been focusing on, making adjustments with family. And my nephew just finished his first week of school at a brand new school where he knew nobody, and he did pretty well. So yeah, so we're here anyway, and I trust that people will be ready and willing to share something. And I can read another in a little while. The theme is El MERO FAMILIA, which is kind of like the special family, non-biological family that we all kind of curate and discover in our adult years, and those meaningful people that stay with us and become extra family.
Or ugly family if you have a crazy family like I do.
Possibly, yes.
My family's a soap opera.
Mine's a space opera.
When you say did you say soap opera, Lorraine? Does that mean like conventional and when you straight-laced? Would that be correct?
Well, una telenovela.
Oh,
No, es
telenovela.
una
Wow.
telenovela, chica.
Oh,
Soap opera.
I meant to show something that I got though.
Ooh,
That looks like the cover of my chapbook.
It is.
Yes. That's my chapbook.
No,
Right
it's mine.
oh, you got Lorraine's chapbook. How'd you do that?
Yeah, I got it a while back. We hadn't been on one of these together. Yeah.
Fire and Water.
And
Ooh,
actually that poem, Fire and Water,
Mm-hmm.
I wrote when I was traveling during the 97, 98 El Nino. And we're now gearing up for another El Nino. And
Yep.
they say it's going to be a real kicker like it was 97, 98.
Woohoo! Can't wait.
Are you saying specifically, Lorraine, for your neck of the woods or for the whole globe of people?
Well,
It's going to be a kick in the pants.
El Nino affects one place, it affects everybody.
California is supposed to get an extraordinary amount of rain from it, which is, after all our drought but this past winter, we also had an extraordinary amount of rain, like massive flooding.
Well, we just got done with 3 years of an La Nina.
Right.
And we're going almost immediately into El Nino, which is something that is unheard of. It was unheard of to hear 3 years of La Nina, 3 consecutive years.
And the difference.
So does that mean, Lorraine, that y'all are going to expect an extra warm summer? Because I know y'all have summer when we're wintering. Where you're at.
The coast is expected to get extremely heavy rains. We're not sure how it's going to hit the mountains, but like in Bolivia, it snowed in La Paz the other day, while the eastern part of the country is having wildfires.
So long, Cindy. I know you're checking out. Just want to give you a wave. Thank you for trusting us and spending some of your time with us. And I'm sorry for your loss.
Yeah, nice to meet you, and don't forget to drink water.
Oh my God. Excuse me a minute. I have to.
¿Qué pasó?
Es que my landlady had the roof replaced on the room that I rent. And so this is my first day back in my room after 2 weeks. It took a week to replace the roof, and then it took a week for us to clean up the mess. And so now the cat is sitting outside my door crying. And I don't know why.
Where do you live, Lorraine? This is Donna. I live in Austin.
Oh no, I'm a lot further south from you. I'm on the other side of the equator.
Oh, fantastic that we can connect this way.
Yeah.
Oh, Donna, I guess I should say that you know Lorraine through Frida Worden, because Frida and Lorraine worked together in Missouri, I believe.
Oh, early.
Well, I also did when I lived in Austin, I did audio editing for
Frida
and stories for
Wings.
Wings, yeah.
So Lorraine's a radio
Awesome.
person también, like you are.
Oh, fantastic. Yeah, and for the fellows, if y'all aren't familiar with Frida's show, she has a show called Women's International News Gathering Service, Wings, and she sends out a newscast every week. I don't know if she's doing it every week now from producers around the world. It's pretty amazing. Can you just hear that song that opens up the show? There's a river of birds in migration, a nation
of women with wings.
Started it very low. Yeah. Hi, Lorraine.
Hello. I haven't listened to Wings in a long time. You know, like not really having a way to tune in.
I'm on the emailing list, so I think that's how a lot of folks get the audio files, is through email. So that's an option also.
Thanks for telling us about it, Donna.
I keep in touch with Frida on Facebook. And Wings too, but she's been having trouble with the Wings page on Facebook.
Oh.
Anyways.
Well, Tammy, go ahead. I noticed when you held up Lorraine's chapbook.
Yeah.
It looked like leaves.
It's an aloe plant, I believe.
Yeah, it's
Okay, yeah, I see. That's beautiful. And at first, when I first glanced at it, I saw pecan leaves, because my meadow is a group of massive old oaks and pecan trees down on Town Lake. That's my meadow familia. And so I wasn't intending to share any poetry, and I thought I didn't have any, but at one point I took a peek in my computer files, and there is something that's just a draft. And so I might read just a page of it and then just stop where, and it's not, it doesn't have all the details. It's just the very cursory first throw down, So
Yeah. Thank you for finding that. I'm now curious.
It's called Next to the River. The family of oaks hold me in the sunrise next to the river. They keep me here not far from frenetic I-35. Gathered, standing, observing, heavily sunk into the earth. Even so, they nod to another way. It's okay to want to go. Their fingers touching ground on long arms reaching 37 trunks. Burr and live oaks long and low above and some skimming the ground touching. Roots connecting, signaling to each other, listening to each other through the ground. Discussing my predicament. Speaking to my heart pressed against bark and cambrium beneath. Holding my family tree listening. My tree family listening to me, accepting. Pecans overlapping above and between the oaks, deep shade to walk beneath on 100-degree days. It takes 200 leaves to make one nut. I see the trees' majestic forms before the sunrise. Beyond the park's soft slope of urban browns, yellows, greens, and tans, light finds its way to the forest floor. The tree family abides with me in my mornings. I think I'll stop there.
That's such a mood. I loved it. Thank
Wow.
you.
Yeah, I can see why you go there. Thank you for taking us with you.
Thank you.
Yeah, it's nice to be in Austin for a minute. Been a while. Really took me there.
I'm so glad that side of Town Lake is just sort of left, not much developed right in that place.
I'm glad you found that. I hope you flesh it out
Thank you.
and extend it because it's a wonderful.
Mhm.
It makes me want more.
Thank you, Brian.
I am.
I see it as one story poem with illustrations throughout, like a
Ooh.
book form poem, book length
nice.
poem, book length.
Wow, that's a cool idea.
Thank you.
It's
I
hard to write
left
long
I left something in the fridge. I'll be right back. I mean, in the freezer.
While she's gone, I'm going to call out Jeffrey because Jeffrey, call in, not call out, call in.
What is it you're calling me in for?
Well, I just hadn't heard from you too much, which is, fine and nice because you're listening and taking in what everyone is saying and reading. But I wondered also if you are a poet and if you have a poem with you.
I don't have a poem. I have some other prose and a meditation, a guided reflection. But your poem reminded me, I got one of those apps on my phone that identifies plants. And so like I was going around finding out what everything actually was that I've been, I'm in Fort Worth. I walked down to the Trinity River and along the river. And so I was just identifying all these trees. And one night I had this dream, and I woke in this dream, this huge old live oak tree. That's, if anybody's familiar with Fort Worth, it's by the zoo, by the Fort Worth Forest Park pool. There's actually 3 huge old live oak trees, and this one particular live oak tree appeared in my dream and said, "How come you haven't come and visited me?" go visit that live oak. So I went and visited it, and when I visited the live oak, it was clear to me as I approached that there was one particular spot which was where I needed to enter in under the branches of the live oak that were down on the ground and everything. And as I approached, a murder of crows started cawing and flying around the tree. And I came up to the trunk of the tree, and I placed my hands on it and put my forehead against it while these crows are just flying around, and they kept, making this tremendous racket. Up against the tree, and I could feel the vibration of the tree through my body, and as I felt it, I could feel my heart beating, and my heart was beating, and the vibration of the tree were resonating one with the other. And since then, I go back on a regular basis, and actually, I've gone twice in the dark. I made on one of my trips, I was looking for are there any street lights or anything else, and there weren't. So I went in the dark and visited twice, and I definitely have a relationship with the spirit of that tree. So that was brought forth by your poem.
Thank
What were
you.
the sounds like at night?
Well, the crows weren't there. It was more. It was much quieter, and some little crickets. No cicadas. The cicadas are daytime things. But
Do you want to tell Tammy where that is?
I'm sure she knows where it is.
She was away though, I think.
It's by the Forest Park pool, which is under construction now, so there's no pool there at the moment. But and I've actually, when we first moved here back in 1980, I used to go run through that area, and the pool wasn't there at the time. It was before the pool. I don't know what year the pool came in, but anyway.
Wow, that's it must have been shortly after that, because I used to lifeguard there like in 84 or 83 even, I think, 82, 83. So they must have just snuck it in those years in between.
Yeah.
Snuck in a pool? Did you say that?
Yeah, and it's a huge and they
Close
have
your
this one-
eyes. We're about to put something here.
It's a monster too. I can't wait till it reopens. It's funny that you brought that up, Jeffrey, because I was like desperate to find a swimming pool today, and I was going to go there, and I suddenly was dismayed to find no, it's not open this season at all. But I did discover, and I never knew this. There's a very nice public park pool in Marine Park up on just off of North Main. You know where 20th Street is? It's right there.
It's by the Rosemarine Theater and the Boys and Girls Club.
Yeah, exactly. And it's delightful. The only downside, get this, you know how much fun it is to go down a wet slide and splash into a pool? They've got a delightful wet slide, but it doesn't go into the pool. It ends in a big trough, and you have to climb out of it. It's crazy. It's like the log ride at Six Flags, but you just stop at the
Oh no, no
It's a
fair.
strange experience.
Sounds potentially painful.
Yeah.
But no, there's it's long enough that you do lose your momentum in the water.
Well, I think I'll read a piece that I think I've read this before, but maybe not everybody here has heard it. And it's about how folks make community on local transit. I've seen it at bus stops. I've seen it at stations like train stations, bus stations, people sharing food, people watching each other's belongings so that one traveler can go to the restroom. There's just a generosity of spirit that you find when you're in transit. So this is about my first experience since the pandemic started, getting back on the bus, and here locally in Fort Worth. I wanted it to be a series, but I kind of petered out after a week or so. But it was also novel again, you know, like because I hadn't been out in public and riding a bus, so it was eerie and a little disconcerting when people weren't wearing masks, which were required. People would have the mask over their mouth and nose until they boarded the bus. Then they take their seat and then pull it down, pull it their mouth. And or there was a time this one woman was coughing ferociously and pulled the mask down every time she had to cough. So that was alarming. All right, here's the piece. And it's from last year, I guess, 22, might have been 22. The sharing and the exchange of ideas and opinions was already in progress when I boarded my first city bus in over a year. It was the number 6, McCart, headed into downtown, and the man was conversing with the young woman in the seat in front of him, and within minutes he was pulling up a box of food, showing it to her, and she was nodding that she'd accept some of it. It looked like smothered hot dogs with chili, and they were probably already cold, but food is food, and when you're on the bus during the pandemic, sometimes you just take chances on graciously offered meals, because it's that kind of time when you'll take all you can get, because tomorrow is never promised, as we hear. Another person, with her mask well below her mouth, is yammering on about her day and her experiences. She's trying to bond with someone on the bus, and it seems a black guy near her in the back section is the best taker. She looks Latinx, and boy does she talk. Some folks on the bus make use of their time, among others, to catch someone's ear, meet a passenger's glance, all for connection, maybe to not feel so all alone. She is telling him and anyone else who's eavesdropping that there's a church up ahead, and she's getting off the bus soon to get to that church because they distribute things like food and clothes, and today it's coats and other good stuff. She so easily, "Why don't you go with me?" to the guy, and I am impressed by her open, vulnerable, welcoming tone. He doesn't seem ready for this. Maybe it wasn't mapped for his day, and she gives him her number so loudly that anyone could have jotted it down and dialed it later. "Call me, and I can tell you about other places like this church." When she's pulled on the cord, ding, for the bus to stop to let her off, she's grabbing her bag and sharing final words when all of a sudden he's right behind her, and he's taken the bait and is allowing her to show him some kindness, and she gets a quiet young friend for a day. Mutual aid is always being forged on these buses every day, because we, the passengers, are hard survivors and realize that the person on the next row is probably as down and out as us.
Man, that's a good little encapsulation.
Yeah, I've seen food shared, I've seen information shared, I've seen well, I shared candy one time. I was going to teach some kids an after-school program. When I got to the school by bus, I found out that they'd canceled it for the day. They sent all the kids home early for some reason, so nobody had given me any notice. So there I was with a bunch of candy bars or whatever it was, and I was a little frustrated. I went back to get on the bus to go home, and I thought, I don't want this candy, so I just started handing it out to people, and it was like a party on wheels. And that kind of thing happens every once in a while, and it's magical, and it's instant community, and you know, an icebreaker like sharing food can get people you know, revealing things about themselves, getting stuff off their chest, feeling a little light, you know, lighter, you know, and not so heavy. There was another time when it was like the 50 something club, because I was the only female on the bus at the time, and all of the men who were on the bus, there were about 5, were all either late 50s or about to be 60. And they themselves say, hey, we're the 50s club. Hey, when's your birthday? Oh yeah, well, I'm right behind you, man. And what do you do for a living? And I didn't say anything, but I thought to myself, I'm part of that club too, because I'm about that age range. And it's so sweet that these men are all, I don't know, it's just such a soft, beautiful moment. And then, you know, people disembarked, their stops were coming up, and then it was gone. That familial bonding just kind of evaporated. But that was enough. You know, it left me in a good mood.
It's a nice smaller version of Richard's observation that that's life on the planet. This is life on the bus.
Mm-hmm.
You know, you make that little club for 10 minutes, and everybody enjoys being part of it, and then time to get off.
Oh, and you should see us all yelling when the bus driver hasn't noticed somebody who's trying to catch the bus.
Oh,
Hey,
right.
wait, bus driver, stop. There's somebody, you know, we rally for that person to be saved and not left behind. That's really special to me. And it reminds me that we're not all kind of in our little stalls of existence. So anyone else want to share? It's what, 9:34, and it's been great so far, and I'm happy that we had some new visitors today.
Donna emboldened me to pull out something that was only half started from just a little while ago. So I'll share that if you'd like, if you don't mind. This is about a very much a MERO familiar person for me, kind of a mentor, and in all sorts of ways. He was a woodworker who gave me a job when I first started in college, working in his woodworking shop, and we just remained friends for the next 40 years until it came time for someone to move in with him and take care of him in his final months, and I was honored to be that person. So there were many, you know, wonderful moments just getting to be in each other's company again. And this was one of those, which was a little difficult, but also magical. And I stopped writing at about the point where we get to what it's really about, which is the title. And this title is My Good Old Pipe. Help. Then a pause. Can somebody help me? He said. I was the only one there, the only somebody. I was indisposed at the moment in the bathroom. His voice came around the corner, muffled a little bit, weak. This is the voice of my mentor, the mentor of many others too, now full of pleading and vulnerability. A difficult sound, but an honest one, sincere and brave in its very vulnerability. Ever a role model sound, even as it broke my heart down. I went to help. He told me 3 things. He told me 3 things. He told me those three things, the things he wanted taken care of after he was gone, tools and other things important to him. It's funny that now I can't remember what those three things are. I think one of them was he wanted to give me his coffee pot. And then he was tired and he sighed. He wanted to break. Now I'm just going to wing it and tell you. I asked him if he wanted to smoke some of the medicine that he'd been using to deal with his sickness. And he said yes. And so I handed him his little glass pipe. He held it up and gazed at it kind of sentimentally and just said simply, in his voice now so weak and yet so real, "My good old pipe." It killed me to hear his voice so soft. This is a man who towered 6'5", who had the deepest voice that sounded like the voice of the gods speaking down from Olympus when he stood up tall above you and called you short legs. And here he was just simply observing this little tool of its own right was going to help him get through this difficult night and however many he had left, as he just held it up and said, "My good old pipe." I'm going to have to work on that one a lot more, but it was a memory I just wanted to capture. There's a lot more to be said about the specifics of how he sounded and how I heard it and how he heard it too. Yeah. So here's to him, Mero Mero.
Yeah, that's right.
Thanks to Rick.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah, it was great to hear that version, though.
First thing I wrote down on my little notebook was, "This will probably take several, if not innumerable tries." That's my little note to self. So not to feel bad about just going ahead and getting that thought down.
Never feel bad about something that's trying to inch its way out, that's already intact and perfect and beautiful inside of you, because it is intact and beautiful and perfect inside of you. And sometimes I find that those intact, perfect and beautiful things only live inside me. And it's,
Yeah,
if you want to gift it out of yourself and then share it with others, that's extra.
Thanks for that reminder. Yeah.
And I loved hearing about Rick, because I haven't heard much yet, and I know that's a profound experience that you've had recently, and I'm sure it's unfathomably deep, resonating in lots of ripples for you. So just acknowledging that I think I begin to see that. Thank you for sharing.
It was a year ago at the beginning of July when I finally came home, when he finally went home. And the two other friends who were there on his last day, we were all planning to get together at the house of one of them. But I ended up getting sick and didn't want to share that with those guys. So we didn't really get to mark it in the way that we had intended to, but we talked enough back and forth in the days leading up to it that we kind of felt like we were together anyway, you know. So you may hear a different incarnation of that story another time.
Thank you. I'm glad you felt inspired to go ahead and lay it on us.
Thank you, Donna.
I'd like to share one
Good,
of
Lorraine.
my actual biological family.
Oh,
MERO, MERO. MERO familia. Sunday dinner. This black and white photo, sepia tinged with a near century of time of lives past. A large immigrant family, faces Sicilian stoic, men in suit and tie, women in somber black, confronting the dreams, the challenges of this new homeland. Nona standing, hand resting upon Nona's chairs, surrounded by 7 children, 3 born in the old country, 4 in this one. My father, the sad-eyed boy, kneeling in front of Nona's sister and her husband, Nona's brother with the grouch marks hair that pushes a fruit cart through wintry streets. With the years, one soul after another passing to the other side, Sunday dinners became a vibrant memory. One by one they left. Nona in childbirth, a son by suicide, another in war, a husband by a barroom bullet, many others, one by stroke, heart attack, hearts torn from the old land between cultures and family. Until the last, my father, the sad-eyed boy, and the great aunt passed to rejoin the family at the Sunday table.
Wow. Man, I love that. I love that phrasing at the very end. That's just so magnificent. Just family getting back together again. It's beautiful.
are you still close with family, Lorraine, in this day and age?
It's a telenovela.
Okay, okay.
I told you that already.
So is it like, oh, sorry, you're cutting out. Sorry, I can't hear you.
No, it's more like some of my siblings telling their kids not to communicate with me.
Telling, wow, they're missing out.
How bossy.
They don't believe in free will.
Well, that's a guaranteed way to get those kids to communicate with you.
Exactly. Like, who's this Thea I've never heard of? Yeah, let's go visit her. I bet she's more interesting than the others.
Well, there is one who has bucked the trend.
Good.
Anyways,
Thank you for sharing.
de nada.
I think it's the first one I've ever heard where you refer to family. I think.
That was very powerful.
I've got some family stuff that I'm working through at this point. I was at the grocery store today, and my sister called, and she doesn't call very often, to tell me that my cousin Clifford had died last night. And my cousin Clifford's my age, It's my mother's brother's son, and he was an only child, and he lived on the south shore of Long Island, further out on the island from where I lived, and they lived on a canal and had a boat. And I used to go visit him in the summer, and he'd take me out, and he was a surfer, and it's like he taught me how to surf
Oh,
on the beaches of Long Island. And when I went away to school and stuff, we didn't see each other very often. But I have another cousin, my cousin Frank, who was my age also, who died a year ago in May. And we had actually gotten together on the Outer Banks of North Carolina 2 months before he died. And I got to spend some time with him. So that was really good. And I knew him. His father was in the military and went to Europe with the rest of the family, and he stayed with us, and we were roommates for my senior year in high school. So like we really knew each other well. And so in the last couple of months, I realized that I had never really expressed my grief over his death. And so I've been doing a lot of work on that, and have done some meditations, guided meditations, getting in touch with my grief and expressing the grief, and allowing myself to actually cry. And now my other cousin died, so there's always somebody new. There's always another one. And the realization that I have this guided meditation to the heart chakra. And the heart chakra manifests our love, our compassion for others, our love for ourselves, our love for other people. And wherever there's great love, that love at some point is going to be touched by grief.
mm-hmm.
And they go together.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, they do.
And what I've started realizing about myself is that I haven't been very good about expressing grief. And if you don't allow yourself to fully express the grief, then you numb yourself from feeling the love for that person. And so that's I haven't been able to put this into words, but that's what I've been
You just did.
working on.
Yeah, I was about to say the exact same thing. Oh, yes, you have. Beautifully.
Yeah.
Thank you, Jeffrey. I'm thinking about a friend that called me right before our event started tonight, and she's a young friend who grew up in this city in Fort Worth, and then applied to art school at least 2 different schools, and she got accepted to the Art Institute of Chicago. And I remember being really sad that she was going to leave, but happy for her at the same time. And I had this huge heavy coat, which I gifted her with at our final lunch together before she flew out to go start school. And she accepted the gift and the hug from me. And then she ghosted me for a few months because she didn't go to the school. She decided she didn't want to, or she was didn't want to leave her family, or it was too cold, or whatever reasons they were. So she didn't go, and I never got the coat back, but it doesn't matter because I didn't want it back, and I wouldn't wear it anytime, especially not today in Texas. Anyway, this person who, Brian, did eventually go to grad school at SFAI in San Francisco, the art institute there, and did achieve her MFA. And when she was in school there, though, she would call me about once a week to tell me things that were happening in her life as a grad student and studying art and living in San Francisco, living away from her family or her hometown for the first time. And she would often say, I'm telling you before I've even told my mom, like, I wanted to tell you first. And then she'd share what she had to share. I don't share this as a gloat at all, but just as a reminder to me or to us here that, there are people who are or have been reaching out to us who really value our company and our attention and our wisdom and feedback and friendship, and that it's important to honor that. And I'm happy to be in that role with my friend Andrea. And she's doing really well. She's teaching at Mission High School in the Mission District of San Francisco. And she just had a solo art show a week ago. And I'm really proud of her. And she is family. And we do happen to have a kind of a family connection. Her mom is related to somebody in our family. So we're not quite blood relatives, but we're close. So I'm happy to be family with Andrea.
Is this the same person who is the DeYoung thing?
Yes. Yeah.
But you kind of come full circle because that's what you started the evening talking about. But
yeah, before we officially started. So I didn't record that part, I don't think, but that was just by way of mentioning that I'm thinking about heading to the Bay Area in a couple of months. I'm thinking about a lot of things. As I explained to my nephew, who is now living with me, I think about things first. It doesn't mean they're going to happen, but the thinking is like just floating an idea. I think, isn't that what designers say? They're floating the idea. It's like putting the cloud together and letting it float over you, and then it can change form. It can dissipate like clouds do when they're like, we're going to rain on you, and then they dissipate and there's no rain. My idea making is like that. So I needed to explain that to my nephew so he knows if I have an idea, it doesn't mean we're bound to get to an end point and do things on a specific timeline. It just means I'm floating the idea so you can start dwelling in that place of possibility. And then we can like hatchet it down to nothing if we feel like it as well. That's it's more freeing to think of things that way than to say, okay, I uttered it, now I gotta do it. Damn it, I shouldn't have said it out loud.
Just don't tell my mom, because then you will have to do it, because everyone on the East Coast will know that you're about to do this or whatever. Yeah. And,
I thought you said you were gonna do that. I thought you said you were gonna. I thought I heard you say you said you're gonna. Oh my God.
It's like that, except for with the Jersey accent, please, next time. Yeah.
Okay, let's see. How would that sound? I'm not gonna try to do a Jersey accent.
You don't want to know.
I did.
That was pretty good. That had a touch of it there.
I know.
Well, wonderful. I think we've covered a lot of bases here. Thank you. Tree is family, family is family, and non-family people is family. I didn't hear any pet poems, but hey, I got my brothers and sisters with 4 legs also.
Oh, I should have read my poem about my plants, but that's okay.
That's okay. Save it for another day, I guess.
They are my family. Yeah.
Richard, I kind of I missed the movement of that wolf picture behind you back when it used to be not in a frame, and sometimes it would move
Undulate.
Were
as
you
if it
here
were
when
not.
were you here when I was talking about that earlier, or did you come in
Oh,
later?
no. I
He
just
came in
remember.
later. He came in
How
later.
weird, because I haven't mentioned that in a long time, but
Oh,
And it
I
has a
I
frame around it, Brian. It's the frame is new-ish.
I know. That's what it's like.
well, the
That's why
frame
it's
is
not
like
moving anymore.
it's been around for a while, but yeah. That's
The
because I read
painting is our family. The painting is our family too.
That's right. That's one of our four-legged friends there.
it is. Well, I showed a piece, I read or showed a piece of like artwork with words tonight before you came that was written to the person who painted that.
Oh, cool. I will definitely go back and check out the recording. Thanks for telling me
Oh, I
about it.
guess it is recorded. Yeah.
Good.
So that's how that came up. How funny. What a funny evening.
Ooh, now you're making me hungry, Tammy.
Yeah. I've been snacking more than I should, but I gotta make some I gotta heat something up.
I don't apologize for snacking.
Don't you
me.
dare. Yeah.
I
I never do.
mean, I don't smoke tobacco, and I've relatively few vices that are consumable. So I will enjoy my cheddar cheese, small batch popcorn, handcrafted creators. Yeah, you got
Do
the
they
weirdest
wonder if they
name.
make every single kernel by hand?
They actually, I have to put this in the chat. This is the name of that they've given this product that I'm eating.
It's sort of
Whoa.
creepy.
That's
It's very
strange.
bizarre.
Readers.
Why?
Graders.
I never noticed that before. That's really bizarre. It looks like a horrible typo.
Yeah.
It's
Sounds like a bad horror movie from the 70s.
What
Yeah.
country? What
That's
country
what
is it made in?
I don't
Maybe
know.
maybe it's not an English-speaking country.
In
Yeah, maybe.
crustacea. Crustacea. Otherwise known as Cleveland, Ohio.
Oh, that
I
explains it.
just, professionally, I cannot condone that name.
I agree. I'm gonna send the bag back. I'm gonna complain about the bag and not the product.
Yeah.
Oh, I have one more thing to say that's totally off the wall. Because I've been a little, well, I'm okay these days, but I don't. My life is not terribly exciting. I'm spending a huge amount of time doing like physical therapy and exercise every day, like an hour and a half. Usually, I spend about 30 seconds. But I was just sort of a little down and out last night, and I watched the Rocky Horror Picture Show, which I haven't seen in a really long time, and I just wanted to mention that. One, it made me extremely giggly, and two, I forgot it was also a tragedy. But really, it's recommended viewing if anybody needs a moment out of their skin.
It's like the filmmaker was giddy and funny, and then it goes dark at the end, with that murder. It's pretty weird. All right.
I know
that is bizarre. I'm sorry. I'm thinking about it now. Okay.
I've
That's
never
all right.
actually seen that movie. Now I'm glad you reminded me of it.
What?
It's
Yeah,
extremely silly. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think it'll be fun. I love Tim Burton, so
It's not Tim Burton. The Rocky Horror Picture Show? No.
who?
It's a mid-70s musical, 1975 musical starring Tim Curry as a intergalactic transvestite who's making a Frankenstein
Dr.
monster.
But
Frankenfurter.
in the movie
And
version, didn't Tim
Susan
Burton play him?
Sarandon is Janet. And yeah.
It's only been a movie version, Brian. Only.
Oh.
It was written as a master's thesis by Richard O'Brien at UNT Denton. And
Oh,
then
you knew that?
yeah.
No, it was
Yeah.
originally
Ah.
a stage show. It was originally a stage show.
I think it was a stage show.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
That's what I
Okay.
thought. Yeah, but who am I thinking of that plays the transvestite then?
Well, Tim Curry plays the
That's the name.
and sings his Sings her little
From
heart out. I gotta tell you.
transsexual Transylvania.
I just, it's silly and off the wall, but it improved my state of mind for like the next several days at least. Besides the fact that I'm, going around humming the Time Warp song, but you know, uh, it gave me a little extra hope for America because that movie came out in 1975, and I think it would shock people today who hadn't seen it. Some of it would, you know.
It'd be banned in Texas and Tennessee and Florida and
Oh well.
Oh
yeah.
my God, yes.
I think that the Ridgely Theater sometimes plays it, even these days.
Apparently, it's the most film most played in theaters ever.
Wow,
I believe that.
that's astonishing. That's great.
and people go dressed up as different characters
Which
in
is
it.
because it's such a cult film and that people want to see in person.
Mhm.
Yeah,
It's
because they want to throw
interactive,
toast at the screen. Yeah.
very interactive.
Mhm.
I'll be
I
watching this very soon.
Oh, that's uplifting. I'm sorry.
But tonight I'm gonna invite my nephew in preparation for the landfall of
Yeah.
Hillary. I think I want to watch this tonight.
Perfect storm.
Well,
Yeah,
that is also an uplifting one. Why don't you watch The Day After Tomorrow?
I know, like yeah, I'd be on a wild streak of doom and gloom movies, right?
See, the nice thing about Today After Tomorrow in your situation is that that's where everything freezes instead of
Right.
burns. And it's really nice. I remember at least when I've been in very, very hot weather conditions, how nice it is to watch a movie that takes place in Antarctica or a blizzard. I mean, I used to watch John Carpenter's The Thing over and over again in August because it was one of the 5 VHS tapes that I had.
that's a
That
great
had,
idea.
had a lot of snow in it.
Well, that's
You
why
do.
I've been wanting to watch A Perfect Storm, like anything with water and like,
Right.
just I think that would be a very cooling film, even though it's a bit dreadful at the end. I have to mention
Well,
that
it's
Donna's
intense.
gone.
It's-
Yeah, it's intense. Donna's
Oh.
gone. She left,
Sorry.
but you
Yeah.
really have to read her parting comment in the chat.
Yeah. It's
Oh.
nice.
She was falling asleep.
That was funny.
And that is one of the best experiences, is being like at a family reunion sleepover and you hear the voices of people you love or who love you in the background somewhere, and you're just all nestled up against your pillow and you're content to be there. You don't have to be in the conversation with them.
Right on.
It's a beautiful way to go to sleep and to wake up.
Tammy, I want to thank you for lending me this.
Oh, have you seen it yet? Did you start it?
Yeah. Oh, I watched the whole thing and then I went right through and did the extras too, because it's not exactly a cool you off film, boy. That's there's like, in fact, they talk about in some of the extra interviews and stuff, they talk about how all that sweat you see on those characters, that was that was real sweat. That wasn't a makeup man spritzing them for like 6 weeks. They were out there grinding it in the southern. I filmed it in southern France, but it's allegedly in South America. But man, what a movie that was! If you guys had not seen this,
I don't know this film. Yeah.
1953 in France and 55 in the U.S. They released it in the U.S. heavily redacted because of all sorts of things, that they said were anti-American and pro-communist and possibly pro-homosexual, heaven forbid. And so this version is the full restored, what is it called?
It's the
Penguin Collection?
Criterion. I think it's a Criterion collection.
Yeah, Criterion Collection. So make sure you get the full version because it's fantastic. And it's not exactly a grin fest either. Although there are some great moments of humor, scattered in there as with any human story. But
Right, exactly. And they make family. I did want to
Yeah,
maybe make a link to that, because when you're going through an arduous situation, you know, like people in the same troops in the same, what do you call, what are those different categories in the military? Like they're in the same division or the same whatever.
asking the wrong people.
Yeah, they become their family. They be like prisoners in the same cell, in this on the same, same unit. They become family for each other.
That was that's a good point. And it's like, and also they were such a diverse group of characters from all different countries.
It's very international.
German, two French, a German, uh, an Italian, or a couple of Italians, and they're all in this other country in South America. So it was a very much a forged family kind of situation. And that was
And
cool.
of course, there's the U.S. owned oil drilling, corporate entity, and that they're spun as the villain, really, in the film.
Very good movie. Like, thank you for telling me about it. I had not heard of it before either.
It's on streaming though. I'll have to figure out whether it's the original version or not. Probably.
Directed by.
So that's the version with I just looked it up, and there's two different pictures. So the picture that you show is the one we should watch.
Definitely.
Probably.
I mean, yeah, make sure that you do the extra little step to
Hey, could you do me a favor?
Yeah.
You have the thing in front of you. How long does it say it is?
That's a good question.
It's like 2 hours, 2 hours and 20 minutes.
It's not a monster, but it's a good long, and it doesn't really feel
the
too
reason
long
I'm
at all.
asking is because if it's on streaming, I can look and see how long the version is.
It's 147 minutes.
There you go.
2 hours 27. Okay.
Yeah, that surprises me actually, because you really get pulled into the story, and only after it's over do you realize that you've just spent 2.5 hours.
This is what a good family does, is they share good movie recommendations.
That's great. I can watch it
The
on.
name is The Wages of Fear.
Yeah.
The name of the movie is how you could tell if you were watching the original version of Fresa y Chocolate or the U.S. censored version.
Oh.
The U.S. cut 23 minutes out of that movie.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay. Good to know that. I didn't until just now.
Fresa and Chocolate.
What is it? I can't understand the title. What did you say?
Fresa y Chocolate. Strawberry and Chocolate, the Cuban movie.
Oh, okay.
That came out, what was it, the late 80s, early 90s?
This was remade in the 70s, and it's a really good movie also, called Sorcerer. And it's directed by the guy who wrote the screen. I think it's by Friedkin. I'm not sure, but I just was looking at the description, because the way you were describing it sounded, I kept thinking that sounds like Sorcerer, which is very hard to find.
He recently passed away. They've been doing tributes to Friedkin. He just died like within the last week.
I think it was Friedkin.
Friedkin did The Exorcist.
Movie. Yeah, yeah, he directed this in 1977. And it's considered one of his best films. And then I just looked at this film that you're talking about, and I'm like, oh, okay. It's the same. It was a remake, or maybe from the same source material or something.
Very interesting.
Yeah.
I'm gonna say thank you for being with us for Recordando August 2023. So we're gonna stop the recording, and it's been very enjoyable. Thank you for sharing all your work. Y'all have a good evening, and I'll see you next month.
Thank you, Tammy.
Thank you, Tammy.
Thank you, Tammy.
Thank you,
Don't
everyone.
leave. Don't leave. Hold on.